Yeah, we probably have a capacity for everyone to sing.
Hello, and welcome everyone. I'm Peggy Brockman, and I am this year's president of the ATD chapter of Emerald Coast. And it's good to have everyone here. It's great to see some students here, and knowing that you ladies are moving forward in your career choice and learning everything that you can learn from being affiliated with an organization like this. So good for you. I congratulate you for taking the step and actually coming to a professional organization like this. So the mission of ATD, which is a national organization, is to empower professionals to develop talent in the workplace. And that's what we're all about. And we are so very excited about our program today. We've been looking forward to this one. But ATD Emerald Coast, we combined with the Pensacola chapter last year, and Mike, who is our last year's president, took us through a great transition there of pulling the two together, along with Candace, who has handled everything from the Pensacola market for us. So we really appreciate everything you've done to help make that transition smooth. And we're excited again to be here. I'm going to bring on Candace Hess, who is my president-elect, and who is going to be taking over and really running with this chapter next year, and looking forward to that. For those of you who are not members, we have membership information on your table. Love for you to take a look at that and see, ATD is a great organization, and you're affiliated with a national group along with local professionals who are in the talent development field. So Candace Hess, come on over here.
Good morning, or afternoon now, I guess, everybody. Thank you for attending the meeting. Exciting to see everyone here. So I want to take a moment to introduce our speaker. And our speaker today, as you guys know from registering, is Mr. Peter Nowak. But a little bit about Pete is he's been a business owner for the past 25 years here in Escambia County. He's an entrepreneur. It says on here he's a supporter of early childhood education, but knowing Pete as a friend, I know that he is very passionate about early childhood education, and that's near and dear to his heart, and he does a lot in that arena. So supporter is undersold there. Committed to helping everybody in Florida have an equal chance at success and happiness. So what an amazing personal mission. So a little bit about Pete's involvement in the area is he's a member of the Florida Chamber of Commerce's Foundation Board, the Innovation Coast Board member, a past director and governor board member of the Ronald McDonald House, past advisory board member of Pensacola Young Professionals, a supporter of the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, and a member of the Optimist Club of North Pensacola. So some amazing involvement in the community there. Thank you, Pete. And like I said, Pete is also CEO of Nowak Enterprises, which has formed 3 separate LLCs, and I think he's going to be telling you a little bit more about what they do, including the most recent, which is Org Properties, that's launching the Pensacola Social Desk, the building that we're here today, that we kind of get the behind-the-scenes preview of today. So that's exciting. And if you haven't had an opportunity to get a tour before the meeting, I would highly encourage you to walk around and get a tour from Pete or one of the other guys that work with him and see this building, because it's beautiful and they've really thought out every detail here. He is a current member of ATD and was also involved with us when we were ASTD in the past, and I'm really excited for all of us to hear about the things that he's doing in training and development with this arena, some of the things where training is intersected with technology, where we all know is more and more common these days. We're kind of having to be IT people and training people all at the same time. And so I'm very excited to hear what Pete has to share with us. So without further ado, please welcome Pete Nowak.
Thank you very much. She's going to keep the microphone so that a little bit later on we have some questions. But those of you that don't know me beyond that introduction, when I was a child, I was always an inventor. So it drove my parents crazy. Handed me a screwdriver, I would unscrew all of the light switches. And so I'm one of those people that you put me in a situation, I'll redesign it the way I think it should be. Dyslexic. So that makes me a little bit of an odd character when it comes to reading, but managed it throughout my life and have used it as a gift instead of a negative part. But so what we're here to talk about, though, is really you guys with your training in micro learning, and I'll kind of explain the path of where we went and how I got there. So as a young entrepreneur, I invented a little tool that was a pine cone collector, went through the process of having it patented, and found out that the process was just unbelievable, and spent a lot of money with an attorney. Didn't get my patent, sold some of my product, but it was really neat to do that at 14, and so I got to learn a little bit about that. Started a landscape business when I was 14 and hired all my friends to do the jobs. It was kind of great, and so we were able to get a lot done with friends. Unfortunately, had an opportunity unfortunately for my father, who passed away, I had an opportunity to run a McDonald's restaurant, and we made the best of it after he passed away, and I was fortunate that I learned how to manage people while I was doing the landscaping and what have you. So anyway, it's been an interesting road through McDonald's, and I'm excited to be here. But one of the big problems we had with McDonald's was we had, 300 or so employees, and we're always doing different things and turnover and all kinds of issues. So again, when you talk about things with training, you all know what it's like, and I didn't want it to be like this, and I want to
stop being so good to be careful. Folks, you haven't talked that way to me. What we've got here is failure to communicate.
So if you can imagine, I really didn't want to be like this when it came to dealing with employees, and I'm sure that our employees didn't want to be like this either. So again, we went on to,
You just can't
let me see if I can stop this, and
So you get what we had here last week, which is the way he wants.
technology.
Well, he did.
So again, that was the beginning of what we realized, is that most people have an idea about what they want to do, but they do have a failure to communicate. So again, this was the beginning, the origins of L3, is that we did some research with our staff, and at the time I was seeing about 300% turnover. It was about 2004. And the things that were going on in the restaurants were not anything to do with the leadership that we were conveying. It was just, we couldn't get ahead of the game. We had generational poverty, we had all kinds of different influences, and we couldn't get ahead of the game. So when we started thinking about the problem, it was time for me either to get out, I couldn't manage the workforce, or I needed to change the way I was doing things. So I started doing research on learning methods and came up with chunk theory, and then from chunk theory realized that short cognitive video messages were a very powerful way to train. So we started developing these messages and saw some great things with it, but we didn't have a way to deliver the messages. So we know through commercial television, these things happen all the time. You see TV commercials, it makes an impression. So very similar to what we were doing with commercials, we thought we could do this in the restaurants. And so I got together with a programming partner, Carl Self, and we started working on the project and ended up solving the problem, and that's where we developed AVISOD. So AVISOD is an acronym for Audio Visual Information System on Demand, and so it was kind of an interesting thing. I was worried about the name when you're doing marketing and things. Aviso is in Spanish, caution, and AVISOD is a name of a little town in Italy. And I always thought, you don't want to be like Nova in Mexico. You could never sell it because that's a car that says no go. so again, I didn't want to be that, but it was a great process to go through and start AVISOD and start selling some of this. So again, AVISOD is about delivering these cognitive messages. And some of the things that I saw, and I really want to talk to you about this, is that I'm not really a trainer. I love training, but I'm a CEO of a company. And so for me, it's got to be about how do I deliver efficiencies. You know, I have people that work for me, I have big payrolls, I have big expenses, I have my own people that support me, investors, I have all kinds of things going on, and I've got to deliver efficiency. So the bottom line of it is it's all about that. So again, one of the areas that we focus on, and especially with trainers, it's all about measurement. It's all about measurement. And how do we measure what we're doing? Every boss wants to know, how do you measure what you're doing? And I wanted to show you a little bit here, because when we went through the process, it was all about outcomes for me. We had insurance workers' comp rates that were 130% of the premium 8 years ago. Today, my comp rates are 85% of the premium. So delivering these messages is really effective. And now, do you know what that percentage is? Like $60,000 a year in savings to my company because of that. And now we're winning awards, and we just got notified we won another award. One of the top 5 companies in Florida to receive these awards for lowering workers' comp and having safer environments. So that's one area. We do all kinds of training. How do we teach people about new products? How do we teach people about recalls? How do we teach people about all kinds of things going on in the restaurants? And that's where the training piece of this comes into play. The system, we needed it to be multi-role and multi-category, okay, and also know where it's located. So if you think about how you're delivering this dynamic training, 24/7 all the time, how do you do this without having all these different roles? So again, some of them are HR with hiring practices. A new employee will introduce them to the staff on the L3 system, and that employee will be introduced to the staff when they go to the system. So it knows who they are, where they are. We can give them all these things. I tell a little story about new people that come to work. We sit here in this orientation room right here, and we will give them 100 ways that they're going to lose their job. They come to work for us, and we tell them to do 3 of them in the first 2 minutes. So it's very difficult for employees to understand what does it mean, because when it comes to customers, kind of all rules go away. We can't afford to lose a customer. So that's kind of the way we do things. And so this really helps us reinforce those important parts and say, yes, you can't steal, but when it comes to a customer, give them whatever they ask for, because we don't want to lose them. So, and again, it's fun because we can use humor to train. And so we have a few examples coming up here in the different areas, and we'll go through those as we go through them. And so here's our first example, is a demo in how L3 works. And so this is an animation of someone going up to the L3 system, okay? And then it's a little thing on reducing workers' compensation. So again.
Please, always keep cleaning equipment like brooms, mops, and dustpans completely out of crew and customer walkways. While it may save you a minute by keeping cleaning equipment close by when you're serving customers or preparing food, is it worth an emergency call to 911? Please, store cleaning equipment where it can't cause a trip and a tragic fall.
So again, when we first started doing this, I was doing these little videos on my own, and I didn't know anything about video production other than I read that short cognitive videos were the way to do this. And so I said, I can't manage anyone doing this if I don't know anything about it. So I went and took some classes over at Pensacola State College in their video production, and I'm sure the teacher thought, this guy's a complete nut. He's taking the class, he doesn't want a grade, and he shows up half the time and doesn't do projects, but he's learning about the process. So I went when I could, I did what I could. They would ask the students to do like something, and I would go and buy like a $4,000 setup with a green screen and make cabinets fly around a room. And I was like, this is just the way I do things. So anyway, had a great time, learned a lot, and realized one thing, is that this is great, but if you have a professional doing it, it takes it to another level. So that's really what I did is, and you see the things that we're doing now in this video, we have a professional team that does this through a company. Another one of the LLCs we formed was called Neatco, and production is its own little thing. We talked a little bit about that. We've been having a great time with this new room and social desk. So you've got to have licenses to do things, to send out content, and this is something we have, but we need to make sure people are notified. So this is a neat thing. So here's another video on training, and here's an example within the McDonald's environment, all-day breakfast. So you can imagine, I have to get this message out all-day breakfast, 24 hours a day now. You can do this. How do I get it out to all my staff? We did some research on how much of an impact you have. If you're a manager in a restaurant, you have an opportunity to engage with people about 30% of the time. So your schedule versus their schedule, there's an opportunity to engage 30% of the time, okay? So what does that mean? Sally works 4 to 7. I've got to remember to tell Sally about this breakfast thing, or I've got to do the big M word, and my organization knows the M word, meeting. You know how expensive meetings are? Okay, so gathering the people from the late night shift into the morning shift, and now I can't do that, so now I've got to have 2 or 3 meetings. So this takes the place of many, many meetings. And so what this does for us is it conveys information about training. And so here's the example right here.
Order takers. Some of your all-day breakfast items will take about 4 minutes to cook, so they have that great, just-made taste. Let your customers know the wait time. Ask if that'll be okay, and tell the fry person to drop hash browns if they're part of the order. The initiator will alert the grill team, who will then cook the eggs and/or sausage and cue the biscuits. Your cook-to-order team is crucial to giving customers a great breakfast experience, day or night.
So you can kind of see when you can combine, different methods of learning, like audio, visual, and written all together. Statistically, if you just write something out in a newsletter, and we did it, we had newsletters, we had e-learning programs, and we still have e-learning programs. This doesn't take the place of all those other medias, but what it does do is it's a system that we use for reinforcement. So the ability to go back in and remind these things. So when you're watching these, imagine that you're in a role, you get HR, you get this message, we have other things going on, and it knows who you are, it knows how many times you saw this, and it's going to try to deliver you this about 5 to 7 times in a 30-day period, so that it reinforces this from long-term to short-term, from short-term to long-term memory. And so kind of think about how that works. And so these are just a few more examples of what we're doing. And so here's a different role. This is management, manager training, and this is a leadership message.
2 leadership ideas. The first, by World War II 4-star U.S. General George S. Patton.
Never tell people how to do things. Tell them what to do, and they'll surprise you with their ingenuity.
American author John Powell advises leaders how to communicate.
The genius of communication is the ability to be both totally honest and totally kind at the same time.
So there's something that we want these kind of values in leadership to go through our team. So again, we produce thousands of messages, and these are just a couple of examples because I want y'all to get real comfortable with what this looks like, this micro-learning, this small cognitive, visual, thought-provoking messages. And that's really what this is all about and what we've done. So again, I think this is the last one. And so here's another way that training through humor. And I think, to me, when you can achieve that part, you really are getting somewhere. If you've ever tried to write something humorous, if you've ever tried to write something for 20 seconds, they say that you want me to write something for 20 minutes, this is no problem. In fact, I didn't really have to prepare much for this talk. Give me a long time, I don't have to do much. You want me to do this in 20 seconds? Give me a year. okay, because it is so hard to condense things down in time. But that's what we've done, and it's fun. Once you do it and you start working with it, you see the results, you just keep wanting to do more. So again, this is the demonstration again, and so we put this in the donut, just kind of as the last one. This is what they're doing at the restaurants.
Here's a scary thought. You and your teammates waste thousands of dollars every year by not keeping your freezer and walk-in cooler doors tightly shut. Our profits pay for that wasted electricity instead of for your raises and bonuses. Beware of the even scarier big dog specter of profits lost and bonuses blown.
Close the damn door.
So you can really see. And what's great is when you know something's working, okay? So I was at a restaurant a couple days ago, and this manager said, "That is so odd that you and your wife have the same birthday." And I looked at him and I said, "We don't have the same birthday. My mother's birthday is September 8th, and my birthday is September 9th. That's been great because all her parties, I get recognized by my brothers and sisters. So that's perfect. A great day to have a birthday." So anyway, so I'm going along, and I'm showing this gentleman L3, and just maybe 2 or 3 people asked me this in the organization, and I hadn't been around the stores that much in the last couple of days. But one of the messages said on it that my wife's birthday was September 9th and my birthday was September 9th. And I thought, wow, at least people are listening. This is really great. And that's the other thing, when you do something like this, how do you avoid this big brother approach? How do you know? Because we're recognizing you from an RFID chip. I'm working on a process now to just to recognize you biometrically. So again, how do you do that without having this big brother? We were so worried about it, it didn't happen. Keep it positive, keep it reinforcing, and you won't have the problem. Humor is a great way to do it. It's hard to do. Bring it in when you can. I always tell our employees that be real careful about humor. It doesn't always come across like you want it to. So again, with the system, we designed a system that would also allow you, if you're not a producer, the L3 system will allow you to go in and just put a text message in. And the beauty of our text message program is it has a little link in there that you can add an audio message. So when the text message pops up, you can have background music, you can do a little audio message. It makes it really nice, and you can do these on the fly. So we can literally have a discussion, come up with a solution. It could be out to the restaurants before we leave the meeting and start integrating into the organization. So a great way to do things on the fly. We've had plenty of recalls where I've had things go out right away. We have leadership people that come into town that drive by the restaurants. All of a sudden we have their bios out, we have all kinds of information out, and when they come into our restaurants, they know who they are. And so you can imagine, and I'm telling you how we use the system, but it's designed totally open. Once you have this system, you have total control. You set categories, you manage the processes, you do whatever you do. But what you guys do in training is what it's all about. It's how you reinforce the outcomes, because I don't know how many of you went to the little Quint Studer, the guy that trained Quint Studer did a nice presentation on video communications, and it was great. I saw Candace there, and it was really, really nice. And he said that if you're a good communicator, said 85% of your salary is going to be based on you being a good communicator. Okay, I can tell you I'm overpaid as a communicator because I'm not that good. But 85% of your salary is based on that, and only 15%, I believe, was based on your technical knowledge. I thought that was a real interesting way to look at things. And so again, how much of your time are you spending with technical versus getting the message across? So we can talk about something until we're blue in the face. One of the examples was you all do training all the time, traditional training. 20-minute presentation, 30-minute presentation. We're going to test you after it. We're going to get the highlight, and then it's going to go away. Just do this for yourselves to see how you do it. Without any reinforcement, test again in 6 months and see where that knowledge is. That was my big issue in the restaurants, is that I didn't have, it wasn't the training we were doing wrong, because we were doing a great job. We were using Articulate, we were making all kinds of things. In fact, I went to a meeting one time and I said, McDonald's Corporation, I said, I'm using this product called Articulate, I'm doing e-learning. They weren't doing anything e-learning at the time. They were doing BOC, the little station observation checklist, normal training, prepare, present, try out, follow up, high level, fast stuff, good, sound training. But the reinforcement really wasn't there. And what does reinforcement mean, So again, while I was thinking about this, in a creative standpoint, is how do you make this easy to disseminate across a large organization, dynamic, many, many restaurants, and have this effective for you. So I'm sure you're thinking of other areas that maybe it would work. And this is the part, as a salesperson, I'm also not very good, because I tell you specifics about how I use it, because that's where I make my money. Most good salespeople try to make it fit into exactly your world, and that's the part that as you all are thinking about it, and we have some questions, think about how this would fit into your world, because we wrote the application and it's totally customizable to your world, and that's kind of fun. So whether you use this or not, you have to find a way to deliver these cognitive short chunks of information. And so again, that's the part that we spent a lot of time on, because we knew the video part was the right way to do it. So creating text messages. Everyone always says you can't train much because you need to have things. What if I have something I can't train in 30 seconds and I don't have enough time to write that much? So we added this feature called message sequencing, and it allows you to do long play messages, like it could be 10 minutes, it could be 20 minutes. We've had 20, 30 sequence messages on grill cleaning procedures. Not that I'm a huge advocate of it, but it gets the job done. You can put them in sequences. I can actually intersect your path. And then the beauty of the system is once you're done with all that, now you've got reporting. You've got the ability to go back and see who saw what when. We had a breakdown in the system. We had an accident. What happened? Did the person see that video on not mixing chemicals? Did the person see the video on things? And so you go back and you review yourself. And in many cases, as trainers, you don't have the ability to do that, because you don't really have much information other than I was the trainer and I did this. You don't know that Joey lost his name tag and nobody replaced it. So there are other reasons that things happen, and certainly I'm not saying that we've eliminated all accidents, but we approach it so differently now. And obviously it's quite effective having 6 awards for safety. Has been a big deal. And so again, and these are just some of the benefits that we've seen. The income I've seen from HR, from customer care, from just letting people know. When I walk into a restaurant, I walk in with who I am. People come up to me and say hello at Walmart, employees that I may not have even introduced myself to yet, but they see me on the system. I'm conveying information all the time. They're very comfortable with who I am as an executive of this company, and they treat me like I want to be treated, like a customer. I always say that, if you want to, I expect you to treat me a lot better than as a CEO. Treat me as a customer, because if you're treating me as a customer, you're giving me all you got, and that's what I want to see, whether you're a grill person or whether you're on the front counter. So again, being able to deliver messages to any shift all day, every day, 24/7, if you can imagine, being able to improve operations through targeted messaging. So I go up, Joe is working in the French fry station, and I see him doing a procedure wrong. It's middle of lunch, it's busy. Is it appropriate for me to stop him, shut down everything, and go through this procedure? Well, I have a way now that I can go in and send Joe the right message and say, Joe, literally on my phone, I can go and type in, Joe, go over French fry procedures. I can go over, take over Joe's job. I say, Joe, go to L3, I have a few messages for you. He goes and gets the training on the fly, and now we're going. We don't miss a beat. I see something maybe less casual, someone leaning on a register or something that is against kind of our procedures, and it just lets me go in and put that, their next message they go up to at L3, they get it. Okay, so we have an intersectable path built in as well. And then as well as that, we have another concept that's just daily communication. So we want you to be aware of what's going on today. We just send you a message on today's communications. We've done this several different form factors. The form factor is not really an issue, whether it's a PC on your laptop, it's your phone, whether it's we use a Linux box for the most part. And some of these Linux machines that we've had, I'm not an advocate of Linux or Windows, or I use Apple computers, but I have computers in the restaurants on these L3 stations that I haven't turned off in 3 years. Haven't even touched them. And I mean, even my Apple computer, I have to reset it far more often than that. My Windows machines used to be significantly more often than that. But anyway, so the idea is how did we solve the problem? This is just one tool that we have, and going from there. So I noticed in my notes that I didn't talk much about Social Desk. And so as we go through, and also you all might have some questions about it. Social Desk is our newest business model concept. The reason is I found this beautiful building. I love the idea of co-working. I don't need this much space for myself. And so we said, is it possible to buy this building and develop the concept? So we went through a few models, looked at the financing model for it, and just kind of said, Pensacola may not be there yet, but we're there and we want to see it grow like this. And so the idea of having a space like this with gigabyte internet service, a production facility like this that you can come in and do training, downstairs conference rooms, rooms that you can come and rent by the day, by the month. There's no long-term commitments. Some of the things we have partnered with Cox Communications, was great working with us on their service. And we just have, like I said, just to me, I think one of the neatest facilities that you'd ever want to have in a small town for people that are starting businesses or starting a training company. So again, David Musselwhite is the manager of Social Desk. He has a background in technology, so we have some really cool technology things going on here. And so again, any questions about Social Desk, also send them my way as well. So Candace is going to walk around with a microphone for our online viewers, which we hope we have several of them. And she's going to have if you have a question for us. Any questions?
Thank you very much for doing it. How long have you been doing L3?
L3 about 8 years.
8 years?
8 years.
And how wide is it distributed through your McDonald's? How many McDonald's do you have?
We have 6 McDonald's restaurants. We have it in all of our restaurants. And like I said, my biggest issue with L3 is the first one I put it in was our Cordova location. And I put it in there and I saw what was happening. And I was like, okay, let's not go to 2, because we were going to go 1, 2, 3, see what was going on. I said, how long will it take you to get it in the other 5 restaurants? Because I want it there now. And so we were using a little different technology. At the time, it was costing about $8,000 per unit. And I wanted it in every location, so I got it in every location. Since then, we've revised it. We've made it much less expensive. The systems now, panel, PC, overhead speaker, everything, run about $2,000 for the unit. And then it's just a SaaS model for software as a service. You have it for somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 a month. You've got the program.
And I guess it's based, it goes via internet?
Via internet. It's all web-based. You can access it anywhere if you have a browser.
That's great. And can they go back and look at the other things too? I mean, I guess you have profiles of people who have their cards that they get in there, and then that's how they get access to the
That's right. That's right. It's a pretty simple, interface that allows you to just go online. You have an administrator. If you're an accountant as an administrator, you put tags in if you're using the RFID methodology. One of our biggest things we found 2 things when we distributed this product. One was people were afraid of producing content. And content was it was a heavy lifting thing. So you have to have content, and as trainers, that's where you all have a real advantage, is this is what you do. You have content. You're going to train. If you want to do something on HR or just only imagine what we change management, everything that you all do on a regular basis, you have that content. So that was one of the things. And then managing the credentials. I mean, everyone has to manage credentials, whether it's a tag, access control, whatever it is. Managing credentials is a task, it's a job, you know, and managing credentials on L3 is a job. So we made it simple. We made it so that you can assign cards just, you know, like numbers 1 through 10, and then you could have these numbers, these cards all out, and then as you can ask, a manager can go in and just say, hey, Susie Q lost her card, I assigned her number 47. So then it's just a quick little admin function. It locks you in, puts a new card in. One of the things we thought about is we'd have far less need for cards if we did a biometric. We don't have nearly as many people losing fingers in our business, so we don't think that would be an issue. So the idea is how do we get to biometric for identification, and would people be comfortable with it? So I'm going to do some testing. I think we're at a point now that people are fairly comfortable with it.
Great information. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Peter. What's the biggest change you've seen in the employees since you've implemented this?
Just knowing what's going on, you know, knowing what, you know, the whys. You know, we always do this, and they never really know why. So this gives us the opportunity for them to understand why, so then it's no longer an issue. So, and that's, you know, kind of the whys behind the do's, and we all talk about that, but not many of us take the time to really explain the big picture. This is what's going on and why we're doing this. And so we take the time with L3 to do that, and it's on your time, not on mine. I don't have to gather you up. So my expenses for meetings is way down. In fact, I don't know that I've really had a meeting in the last 3 years that has been of any significance. You know, we send a lot of information out this way. And now with this system, imagine with the room, imagine what we're doing now with technology. We have things going on now where we can do online checklists and all kinds of things live with managers across the system. So we have a lot of neat things going on. I think if you learn how to take advantage of technology, and I'm not an advocate, because we use this for early learning. So if you can imagine, we can teach a child how to read with this, but it's not about interaction. I'm not a huge advocate of technology just for the sake of technology. If it has some use and function, I'm all about it, because that's where you really can take advantage of it. How do I get every place at the same time? That's a great use for technology.
Yeah. So do you actually have the employees, are you able to monitor every time they log in?
They don't have to log in. They take a name tag, just like you saw online,
yeah,
and they walk up to the system, and it knows exactly who they are, exactly what they've seen, and has a log of what's coming to you next. And that was a big technology solution, because you got to realize that most places at the time we designed this to work in a 640K bandwidth environment. So the technology here, in schools we've used it, low bandwidth restrictions, and still deliver video, not live video, but deliver video. That's kind of an interesting way to do it. So it knows exactly who you are, why you're there, and where you are, because some messages are pertinent to that location and some aren't. So if you're in the grill, if you're in the front counter, it's gonna be able to track you.
Brilliant concept. Thank you for sharing it with us today.
You're welcome. I don't know if it was brilliant. It was really, I was really at that point where I wasn't achieving what I wanted to see happen.
Do you use employees in your content, and if not, why not?
We do all the time. We talk to them about it. Actually, that to me is what makes it real. And that's why they're engaged. So if you imagine, we recognize them for their birthdays, we recognize them for special occasions. When a customer calls and gives us a compliment, it may cost me a couple $100 because we go out with a film crew, we capture them, we produce the content, we make a big deal about it, and then we show it for a long time about this is what we want to see. So again, you just got to capture those nuggets, those opportunities, engage your staff. When people come to work for us, we tell them about L3. We get them to sign a disclosure agreement for us so that we can use that content online, and that's a big deal. I mean, that's a great question, and I think it is one of the most important. And that's why it's hard to make package training that is really effective. If you don't produce training specific to the company, you don't get the same mileage out of it. So great question.
What has been your biggest return on investment, and how quickly did that happen? And did you communicate that back, like through one of your vignettes? I noticed, this cost will impede raises, and so have you ever turned that back around and said, because you are following procedure, we're able to blah blah blah?
Absolutely. So we have different bonus programs based on different levels of performance, and bonuses are really difficult. As you see, if you talk to someone from Wells Fargo, bonuses can be a real challenge in companies because employees do wild things to make these bonuses, and it can be very dangerous. So, and I'm not saying we're not one of those companies, we've had those scenarios where you talk about food costs, all of a sudden you get real low food costs, but you're delivering customers terrible quality and you're losing customers. So there's all this balancing, and that's really the beauty that I found, is that you can always have that balance. I remember one time an executive manager came in to me and said, Pete, I like your system. Let's focus on drive-through. And I looked at him and I thought, we probably get some pretty good results in drive-through, but I'd probably have more accidents, I'd probably have HR issues, I'd probably have all kinds of other things, going on. So the idea of this balance, and what that means in your company, and how do you balance the production, the messages you're delivering with what you're trying to achieve. So when you have that balance and you rise up, so I can tell you now that I'm probably making 8 times as much money as I was making 10 years ago. I don't know how much of that's to do with L3, but I can tell you this. It's pretty amazing. And in fact, one of the reasons why you look at a technology that we developed, and you say, how can you really afford to just do that? You put a fortune into that. You have a huge production staff. You have all this stuff. I haven't missed a beat. It's been like we've been growing and driving revenue so much that I haven't even really had to stop and say, how do I sell this? How do I get a return on that? I'm getting a return with 6 restaurants on this. It's amazing.
Kind of piggybacking on that, early on you mentioned 300% turnover, and that catches everyone's attention. So I'm curious, what's the average turnover in your stores now?
So turnover is an interesting thing. So we have restaurants that have been down as low as 45%. So the fast food industry averages in the 150 to 200 range, so you hope that turnover, you can categorize it into different areas. Management versus staff, line, we hire young people, so we hire someone at 16, they go to college, or they change jobs and something better comes along. So you're turning over people, so you're having to train people fast. So this, and that's one of the things, and you guys can tell me more than others. Some people say, well, it's just unique to your environment. That's a great solution, but it's unique to your environment. I don't know that that's true, because I think you've got to find a way to capture knowledge and transfer it somehow. So how does your organization archive knowledge, and how do you bring that knowledge back to the front line? Whatever that front line is, it could be assembly line, it could be anything. How do you bring that knowledge and wisdom back to the front line? And that's the part that's important relative to turnover also, because we're always trying to do the right thing when it comes to people in our organization, and that doesn't always mean that we're the best fit for everybody. I mean, we drug testing, there's a lot of reasons we lose people, but it's not because we don't care about their development and don't give them a resource that probably no one else is giving them in the country. And so again, 45 to 120 is probably where we fall into that mix, always lower than national average, but sometimes it's still the leader. And so one of the things we haven't talked about on L3, mentioned a little bit, and an area that I love to use it for is leadership development. Is how do you take and put, leadership development as your primary focus. And that's one of the things that we really have, done a good job of when it comes to using L3. A lot of leadership development messages.
And that's my second question was, how did the frontline managers respond to this? And I mean, I can visualize a lot of resistance, to use an old term.
Yeah. We thought the same thing when we first started. We thought, you'd have a certain amount of, Big Brother, but because so think about this, and maybe again, this may be where we used it. We use it at the hand washing stations in the restaurants. Okay, it just so happens that antibacterial soap needs to be in contact with your hands 20 to 30 seconds. So being the efficiency monger I am, I woke up at 3 a.m. and said, voila, hand washing stations, this is where this needs to go. Because it was in the crew room and it was on the wall, and all of a sudden, I said, this is it. Now I recapture the time that we're washing our hands. So I didn't even talk about the efficiency. Maybe that's all my efficiency right there. I don't So the idea is how do you do it, where do you do it, and then how do you keep it positive? So that same person recognizing them in front of their peers would probably go from negative to very positive. Now the people that are the resistors, the ones that say, my performance is gonna be just under, but not quite low enough to get fired, but here's what's real interesting, is I can pull reports, they're not the ones watching. They're not the ones, so all of a sudden now you have this like, ooh, interesting category of folks that are not really engaged with us. And so you have an opportunity as a manager to go in and say, what does it take to get you engaged? Sometimes it's recognition. Sometimes it's just saying, hey, it's a part of our job and we require you to watch 5 or 6 of these training messages. And you can actually create specific categories for them. So all of a sudden now you have a group of people that you're saying, hey, this is, they're not real responsive to this. You can create a separate category almost on the fly and put them in that category. Kind of interesting, Good questions.
I know that you've implemented L3 for training purposes. Now, is it because there was a disconnect with the employees and the customers?
Employees and
customers?
No, I don't think. I think it's, I think we have good training systems in McDonald's, and I think that's, one of the things that we're, key to, and as a company, we see a lot of people, so we train a lot of people, turn over a lot of people, train a lot of people, and certainly get better at it. It was just one of the factors that we realized that was important to do. We have, in another time, maybe I can do a presentation, we developed this customer care product that allows us on the fly, if you call me with a problem, on the fly, I can deliver you anything that was a problem to get you back in the restaurant. So if you say, hey, my Big Mac didn't have pickles on it, I can say, well, I can deliver you a Big Mac with pickles and French fries, if you come back in. So you say, oh, well, that'd be great. Well, on the fly, I can send that to your phone. Now, I capture all this information in a system and database, and I take that and we look at it as to location, time, place. And so one of the things was that people said, you guys are rude. Well, interestingly enough, rude was a symptom of we made mistakes. All right. When someone comes to you and says, I ordered a fillet of fish and you gave me a quarter pounder, it's usually not oh, this happens all the time, you're the sweetest person, no, it's blah, 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 and this time, and my time is so valuable, and and all these events, and then the employees some of them react the wrong way. We do a lot to train people, but some of them don't react the way you would want them to react, as being able to separate themselves from what the customer's saying and deliver the right response. They take it personally, they react, and then guess what? The next phone call I get is not only do they mess up my food, they're rude. That happens, and so the best way to change it really is not make mistakes. Mm-hmm. So how do we drive the right training processes so that people don't make mistakes? That's going to be the best way to handle the situation. And then if they don't, how do we actually engage? So we came up with this and read this little book, and this is a fun thing. So I don't read a lot of books, but when I do read them, I'll come back to the production department and say, let's do this thing. I have this great idea. Look, connect, smile. All right? That's a very simple process. If I'm engaging you, Candace and I we're connected. All right? Now I smile. This is great. You smile too. Now we're really connected. So the idea is you really don't have someone's attention if you're not looking at them. You don't have that connection. So if I say, welcome to McDonald's, you know I'm not connected, you know. So if I'm going to get you excited about customer service, we've got to have that connection. So again, that simple process would change a lot of things. Now, training that process, we've done videos, we've done productions, we've done all kinds of things, and it's helpful, but getting folks to make that visual eye connection with everyone and getting them to do it is important. So read a book, come out with a production, change the training that you do. It's a lot of fun, and you can do all that on the fly.
I had a question actually, because I was thinking about the production quality videos that you do are amazing, but I think for some people that don't have a production team, that might be kind of overwhelming. So do you ever just do like a kind of on the fly video or something like that, and what would be your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. So this guy in Mobile, he bought one of our systems. And I said, well, how do you like it? He said, yeah, it's okay, people like it, you know. So he happened to be in this meeting we were at, and we were in Sandestin, and I said, hey, well, you know, while I'm here, why don't we make a little short video? I had this little webcam, you can use your phone, whatever. I had this little webcam, but anyway, I said, let's just make a quick little video, you recognizing this manager that was recognized in the meeting for this award. So I went out on the balcony with him, and he is just this amazing delivery person. He just didn't miss a beat, one recording, 30 seconds, nailed it. I was like, doesn't get any better than this. And so he didn't say anything to me. I said, oh, that's fine, I'll do it. So I go, and I'm thinking, this is just unbelievable. I know what's getting ready to happen. So I put it in the system, logged in. I said, stop by that restaurant on the way home. I get a phone call. Probably an hour and 15 minutes after he left the meeting, which was 15 minutes after he was in the restaurant. He said, Pete, he said, can I get 10 more of these systems for the other restaurants? I've never experienced anything like this before. So it depends on really how good you are. You know, if you're good, Jeff would probably tell you, you know, it can be hard and it can be easy. It depends on you and what you're willing to do, you know, and I would say do it, try it, see what happens, you know, start producing. This is the thing, like anything, you're going to get better. You're going to get better, you know. And then, you know, like me, I said I wanted longer shelf life. So that meant buying music, doing all the things that we had to do, hiring a professional producer, having editors with sophisticated systems. So I think based on your business model, how can you get the best? Because I think this is an area that you get a bigger return in. The better you are, the longer your shelf life, the more people like it. And you all, as professional trainers, you want to have that reputation. You know, we developed a product just for most trainers. It's pretty cool. It's a little product that you can have $5 a person. It's called WebL3, and so you can, for $5 a person, you can sign people up, and they're just tethered to you. So you can train them and do anything you want. They could buy any kind of training you produce, and you're just paying a $5 fee per person. That's a pretty neat little product. And again, I'm not a good salesperson, so we develop products that are kind of cool that we think are going to be right. And I have to tell you this, that is a very expensive way to develop. If you take anything out of this, I could save you all a fortune. Anything out of this will make you wealthy. Develop for a customer. Okay, make the customer the key to what you're doing, and you will be successful. If you tell the customer what they should be doing, chances are they're not going to take it the right way. I've been on that side of the fence too often. Develop for a customer. A customer, as an entrepreneur, some of the beauty of this building and what I'm doing here is mentoring people. Just another real quick story. I know you guys' your time is probably very valuable, and we're close to the end of the time. I had a guy come in, we're looking at for caterers. We have a full kitchen here, so we wanted to be able to cater events. And so my first catering person comes in, and he's like, this is what we do. He brought me a salad. We had a great time. It was really a great experience. And so we're there. He said, well, Mr. Nowak, when I found out it was you, I really had this big question about franchising my catering business. And I thought, you know, maybe if I could come in and show you what I was doing, you could give me some help on franchising my catering business. And I said, well, you know, that's what this is all about. You know, I said, you know, just coming in and being able to have access to someone who's been around in business for a long time and kind of gets it and has started other businesses and does things. And that was, to me, where he thought maybe, you know, he had to have an appointment with me to do something else to get my attention. It's really not about that. It's about helping people become as successful as they can be. And so having myself here, having other resources that we have access to, that's what it's about. So you all as trainers, as business people, as salespeople, you know, as teachers, you know, a great opportunity to send your students, find ways to get engaged, and it's my contribution back. We don't charge extra for that, not that it's worth anything, but we don't charge extra for that access to someone who's a successful entrepreneur when you need it. So kind of fun part of Social Desk. And so it's been a pleasure having you all here. If there's no more questions, I guess we will end this presentation. And thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. That was a very excellent presentation. I hope you guys got as much out of that as I did. I know that he's just got some amazing thoughts and ideas and implementation for some of the things that he's done with training and development. And it's nice to see some practical applications too of things that we're talking about in these meetings, where there's a company here in town that are actually doing some of those amazing things and implementing them in very creative ways. So we do have a little gift for you. We wanted to say thank you for presenting. So just a couple things here. We've got a copy of Peggy's book, 10 Feet from the Edge, Stuck in the Comfort Zone. And then we've also got a little ATD notebook and pen for you. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me.
us.
And thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
And thank you everybody for coming. For those of you who aren't members, if you want to ask questions about membership or look into joining afterwards, myself or Peggy or Jesse or Mike will be available, or Shay back there too. We're all available to answer any questions that you have. But thank you again for coming. I really enjoyed this. Y'all have a great afternoon.